Good day, this is Dimitri Lascaris coming to you from Bogota, Colombia on February 5th, 2026 for Reason to Resist. I'm now in the main square in the old part of the city of Bogota. I arrived here this morning from Caracas, Venezuela. Tomorrow I will be returning to Montreal after spending about 2 weeks in Colombia and in Venezuela. And this is the first opportunity I've had to ever visit the city of Bogota. Here in the old part of the city, it's really extraordinarily charming, and the natural beauty of this place is really something to behold, and I regret that I won't have more time to enjoy this place. Bogota, as I've learned in the short time that I have been here, is a city that's over 500 years old, and it's situated on an alluvial plain high up in the Andes. And if you can see, you see up behind me here some Andean peaks. This plain is some 2,600 meters above sea level, which is higher than the peak of the second highest mountain in Greece, Taygetos, where I spend much of my time during the warmer months. So the air is kind of thin up here, and I'm not accustomed to it, so I'm walking more slowly than usual. But everything about this place is really quite charming. The city apparently has a population within the city limits of something in the range of 7 to 8 million people. And in the metropolitan area of Bogota, there's some 11 to 12 million people. It is by far the largest city in Bogota, major contributor to the Colombian economy. And I understand that Bogota is the third highest capital in the world in terms of elevation. And some 98% of the population is mestizo, which is a combination of European and indigenous origin. And to an outsider like me, that's pretty obvious when I look at the physiognomy of people here. They're very, just in the short time I've been here, the people are very friendly. They seem very relaxed, calm. And one thing that has struck me about my time in Bogota is that I've seen, by the standards of Western cities, very little homelessness, at least in the small area of the city that I've seen, which is, the old city in the center. Very little homelessness and very few militarized police, far less than I see in any major Western city. And this is a comment or something that I've observed time and again when I've traveled to major cities outside of the Western world. We're told about these cities that they are crime-ridden, that they are corrupt, that there's extraordinary levels of inequality, that there's homelessness everywhere, that they are police states. And although there may be some truth to that, to varying degrees about different cities in the non-Western world, I'm sure there is some truth to that. I see every single time that I come to major non-Western cities, it seems, my overarching impression is that they aren't nearly as militarized, and there isn't nearly as much homelessness as I witness on a daily basis whenever I'm in a major Western city. Take those observations for what you will. They are obviously anecdotal in nature. I haven't conducted any kind of scientific analysis of the extent of homelessness or policing of the population here, but those, for what they're worth, are my observations. So I will be leaving, as I said, for Montreal tomorrow. And I just wanted to share with you my overarching impressions of these 2 weeks that I've spent in Colombia and Venezuela. And by the way, while I've been down here, I was joined by my colleague Rami Yahya, who did some excellent work reporting at the Nuestra America, Our America conference in Bogota about, I think it was 10 days ago, where he interviewed numerous people who had assembled at this conference for the purpose of exploring how Latin America should deal with this renewed and hyper-aggressive imperialism that we're now witnessing from the United States government and its vassals in the West. And then he interviewed a fascinating character by the name of Timochenko, who was the leader of the FARC, a leftist armed revolutionary group that was at war with the Colombian security forces for many years and did a peace deal with them about 10 years ago, If you haven't watched Rami's interview of Timoshenko, I suggest you do that. We published it on Reason to Resist a few days ago. But going back to the main reason for my doing this brief report before I head out of Bogota, my overarching sense of the feeling in these two countries during the brief time that I've been here is that there's a lot of fatigue and there's a lot of fear. There still is, people are determined. Many of the people I spoke to remain determined to protect their sovereignty and to maintain their dignity in the face of the mind-boggling depravity of Western elites. But they are also feeling, I think, a powerful sense of fatigue and fear, and that's entirely understandable. They've been fighting this fight for many years to varying degrees in different countries. Perhaps nowhere has there been more exhaustion inflicted upon the population than Cuba, but that experience of constantly fighting on a daily basis for one's dignity and one's survival in the face of Western aggression is one that has been widely, shared throughout the region. And over time, of course, fatigue accumulates. We're all human, and I understand that. And then there's fear, of course, because people are seeing, especially in the aftermath of the kidnapping of President Maduro, that no one is going to come to their aid. They may receive assistance from some limited degrees of assistance from powerful states outside the Western world like China and Russia, but China and Russia have a lot on their plates in their own regions, and it's understandable that they can only commit so much to the fight for sovereignty and dignity in distant parts of the world. And so people understand that here. They understand that for all intents and purposes, they're on their own. They're confronting a monster. And so there's a degree of fear. I sense that as well. And one thing I have to say that troubled me is I didn't feel here, I didn't get the sense that there is the same level of determination to resist as I have encountered in West Asia. I've been to West Asia many times over the past 2+ years of genocide in Palestine. I was in Palestine itself. I was in Lebanon on numerous occasions during the fighting between the resistance, the Lebanese resistance, and the satanic Israeli entity. I was in Iraq. I was in Qatar. I was in Jordan. Got tossed into the Huzgah in Amman because I dared to film a report 100 meters from the Israeli embassy. I've had a rich experience of what is happening in West Asia over the past 2 years, and have marveled at their determination to resist at any cost. And to be perfectly blunt, and I say this with great respect to our comrades in Latin America, I don't have the same sense. I don't see and feel the same level of determination to resist at any cost here, which is, again, completely understandable. I cannot stress enough, this is not intended as disrespect, but there does seem to be a significant difference to me in my interactions with people in these regions in the level of determination to fight and to sacrifice. And I've asked myself many times over the last 2 weeks while I've been here in Latin America why that's the case. I don't know. I don't have any brilliant explanation to offer, but I suspect that it has at least something to do with religion. And although I am an atheist and I anticipate that I will remain one for the rest of my life, I am increasingly intrigued by these by religions of resistance, and I think that in many ways that is what Islam is. It's a religion of resistance. Perhaps Shia Islam more than Sunni Islam, but again, I'm not steeped enough in these religions and the differences between the two schools of thought to offer you any kind of an expert opinion on this subject. But I do suspect that religion has something to do with it. I myself was raised in a Christian household, and the ethic of resistance was never drilled into me anywhere near to the same extent that I have sensed when I have been amongst our Muslim brothers and sisters in West Asia. But in any case, this is a subject that requires a lot more attention, and one that we will continue to explore on Reason to Resist in the days ahead. In the interim, I want to say this: however much fatigue and fear our brothers and sisters in this region or any other region of the world may be feeling, and I cannot stress this enough, this war will be won. And this is not a statement of hope. This is not an expression of optimism on my part. I believe that this is based upon a cold hard assessment of the facts. Whatever the strengths of the external resistance to Western hegemony may be, and whatever their weaknesses may be, ultimately what will bring down these monsters is their own failings. And within Western society, the seeds of demise have already been planted and have begun to sprout their noxious weeds. You know, what am I talking about? I'm talking about, for example, the erosion of the quality of education in the West, the increasing inaccessibility of education in the West, the demographic crises in the West, the degradation of essential infrastructure, the misallocation of resources, and particularly the overinvestment, if I could call it that, in merchants of death and in war, the proliferation of firearms, gun violence. You know, the United States has the highest level of incarceration of any country in the world, even though countries like India and China have a far larger population. There's a certain spiritual void in Western countries. You know, the breakdown of the family unit, and I could go on and on. You know, somebody who's had a lot to say about this, and I think has brilliant analysis to offer, is Emmanuel Todd, the French anthropologist, and I've learned a lot from reading him and listening to him speak about the decline of the West. And I've witnessed this myself. I've been all over the United States. I lived in the United States for 7 years. You know, there's only 3 states I think I have never visited in the United States. I think it's maybe Idaho and Wyoming, and maybe one other state. And I've made a point during the time that I was in the United States of going to the poorer parts of the country, like Camden, New Jersey, and East St. Louis, you know, and East Chicago, and Philadelphia, Baltimore. I spent a lot of time in Baltimore. I've seen parts of the country that you don't get to see when you rely upon the Hollywood propaganda machine. And I've had personal and direct experience to a degree that many Americans themselves have not had of, you know, the suffering in the United States has been brought about by this depraved elite that couldn't give a damn about ordinary citizens. So when I add it all up, what I see is that the seeds of, you know, the Western demise have been planted by the elites themselves, and ultimately that is what is going to ensure the collapse of their power. And the question, the challenge for all of us is twofold. How do we avoid the destruction of humanity by these sadistic psychopaths as their power declines? And how do we, secondarily, minimize the suffering of the innocents as we experience the decline of Western hegemony? Those are the two challenges confronting us. But ultimately, this war, this civilizational war that we are now in, to call it a third world war in many ways is not adequate. It's really a civilizational, existential war, the likes of which humanity has never seen. What we are now experiencing and participating in, people of conscience will win that war. But there will be a great price to pay in the interim. And I therefore, you know, my heart goes out to people in this region and to other regions of the non-Western world that are having to grapple with the sadism of our elites. But my message to you is one of victory. Not hope, not optimism, but victory. And it's there that I'd like to close out my trip to Colombia and to Venezuela, and to those of our comrades in these countries who have been kind enough to welcome me and to guide me, even if only by sending me the occasional message and the occasional message of encouragement. I say thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's been, as I say, an enriching trip, and I look forward to continuing our conversation in the days ahead. In one respect, the timing of this trip was unfortunate, and that is that while I was here, shortly after I arrived, the so-called Department of Justice under the Trump administration released millions of pages of criminality, evidence of criminality of the Epstein cabal. And I haven't been able to report on that during this period. I think that this is arguably the most important journalistic story in my lifetime, the Epstein files, because of what it reveals of the true nature of power in Western society today. And I don't think it's an understatement to say that if we as journalists are able to dig deep enough into that morass, that cesspool, and spread the news, the truth of what these people have done widely enough, we can bring about the revolutions that are necessary to not only save humanity, but to deliver justice, democracy, peace, and dignity to all the peoples of this world in short order. On that note, I'll be signing off from Bogota, Colombia. Thank you for listening in, and stay tuned for our next report. We'll be doing a live stream on Sunday. Rami, Yahya, and I, at this point, we think it's going to be at around 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and we hope you'll join us then. Signing off from Bogota, Colombia on February 5th, 2026.